So I'm here with Peter Alexander, who's the CIO of the Treasury Australia. Peter, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
I was very interested to hear about your experiences as a CIO in an organization that has the kind of profile and importance of something like the Treasury. Obviously, I imagine it's a pretty busy role. Tell us a bit about the organization to start. What's it like? What keeps you busy during the days?
Yeah, so the Treasury in the federal government is, I guess, lots of people have a conception or a preconception of what Treasury is, and quite often, and not always, but people base it on what the state government treasuries do, which is collect and spend money and do those kind of various things. And so people go, oh, you're from Treasury, you must be here to collect, take our money. Why don't you spend money better? The federal government's slightly different in terms of how the Treasury operates. The Treasury in the federal space does a range of things, looks after the markets and basically financial markets and various other markets to make sure they function well. And we do that through a number of means. One is through the kind of the actual Treasury organisation, the department, but we also then have a number of departments or agencies within our portfolio, ASIC, APRA, the ACCC, which kind of also perform part of that function. So we have a responsibility for overseeing those, I guess, to an extent. We then have the revenue group, where Treasury does look after taxation policy and some taxation legislation and forecasting tax collections and various things for the government to help them manage their finances. And of course, we then have another big agency in our portfolio, the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO, who collect taxes and kind of do that work as well. So we have revenue group doing that. We then have the macroeconomic groups, which look after kind of international economic forecasting and reviews and understanding what's going on in the world, and then our domestic economic modelling and forecasting work, which is also supported then by another portfolio agency, the Bureau of Statistics. Also tied in with the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is in our portfolio, kind of a bit separate, but in our portfolio. So there's these various connections to there in that economic modelling. And then the other kind of business group we've got is the fiscal group, which look after then kind of pulling that all together and helping the government make the budget. So advising the government on expenditure and revenue, what new measures are around, and then how they work together and crafting budgets. So that's kind of Treasury's broad set of functions. And then, of course, supporting that, we have a corporate function which IT sits in and supports those various things. So the things that we work on, that we have budget systems that produce the budget. We have modelling systems that do that modelling for the economy, for revenue collections. We have systems for connecting with our various stakeholders in markets and engaging with them. We have systems for holding big sets of information for us to do modelling off, and then just our regular corporate systems, I guess, that everyone's going to have: desktops, financial systems, etc., etc. So that's kind of Treasury's business in a really, a postcard of Treasury's business from a helicopter view, I guess.
Postcard's probably not the right word. It's more like a 4-page letter, I think. It's quite an addendum for you.
It is big. So we're also in a fascinating space too, which I think is kind of an interesting story to tell, and part of our challenge is that when I started in Treasury nearly 3 years ago, we were about 1,050 people organisation, and we've reduced by about 15% or so. We're just over 900 now, and we're kind of on a trajectory to go down to, depending on probably about mid 700s, and so we've probably got another 15% reduction ahead of us, or so, and so doing more with less is kind of that classic challenge, because there isn't really less we're doing. We're probably doing the same, just more efficiently with better systems potentially, and trying to survive through reductions, I guess, where we have these challenges to keep doing what we're doing, to really think hard about prioritisation and what we do and what we stop. So it's a fascinating environment, you know, in that, and particularly in the IT sense. You know, some of the business areas might be able to say, look, we're going to stop doing X or Y, but we can't stop desktops, and we can't stop the systems they need for their major business functions. And so we have to keep progressing those and investing in them and building them, and making them more efficient, more productive. And so it's an interesting space to be in.
I can certainly imagine. So how do you, as a CIO, work to maintain and sort of a profile within the organization? You would certainly be dealing with a lot of different stakeholders. I mean, you've got a who's who of very important organizations and very busy organizations with their own agendas. How do you make that happen, both, I guess, in terms of the technology and obviously the business relationships that you maintain?
Yeah, so fundamentally, it's work. You know, we have this interesting kind of stakeholder engagement process across Treasury where business functions of Treasury are working hard to be more engaged and listen better. But from the IT front, we're really, I mean, we can always do more, but we're pretty good at it in that I personally make a lot of time to go out and talk to agencies who we work with and deal with their IT groups. So we have a formal Treasury Portfolio CIO working group. We get together every couple of months and have a formal meeting where all the CIOs from the portfolio come together and we chat about what we're doing and how we can share things. We then have a various whole of government, federal government kind of groups that do similar things, maybe at a slightly different pitch, sometimes a bit less practical. We're actually quite practical in our group, and we'll get together and say, you know, who's done what with technology X? That sounds good. Can I take that? Can I share this? How do we connect better? And so it is effort, and I think that it is an investment of your time to do that, whether that's through those formal meetings or just catching up with people, you know, I think there's just an investment in time that you've got to make to do that, and not just me. The investment has to be kind of across the group and across all staff. So that is an important one to do as well. Like, you know, I think I sometimes will start a conversation, but then I'll say, you know what, you need to talk to our security guy or our CRMs guys who'll go out and talk to someone about what we're doing and share experiences. And so we do a lot of that. And I think it's just realising that that's not a nice to have, that's actually a critical part of your job for not just me, but as I say, for all our team.
Yeah, so you're almost a concierge. You're kind of directing people. You've got to keep everybody happy, make sure everything happens in the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to consider it. Yeah, it really is. Sometimes it's I'll know someone who can connect someone to someone and make things happen. Yeah, definitely.
More broadly, what would you say is your philosophy as a CIO? Obviously, you have to manage a fair bit. What is your philosophy?
So I think my philosophy is fundamentally to understand what the business, what Treasury is about in this case, what Treasury is about and what we do and how I can help make that happen, how I can improve the business areas by understanding them, going and talking to them, empowering my staff to, I guess that's part one. Part two of my philosophy is then having an empowered staff group of really capable, clever people, and working with them to build their capacity and their capability and allowing them to make good choices and do good things. So I try not to be overly prescriptive in how I deal with my people and say, here's a problem, here's what we need to get to, and giving them the delegation and capability to make good choices. So I think it's kind of a, you know, in terms of how I describe it, it's making enough room for innovation, but understanding that we have an important job to do and a compliance burden to meet, and important products like the budget to deliver through our systems. So I think my philosophy is flexibility with rigor,